Here's a class named forTest in which we'll try to go over some of the basics of the for loop. And what a for loop does is it lets us iterate over some value. An iteration, again, is repeating a process. So a for loop operates quite similarly to a while loop, in which you could do something over and over again based on some condition. And so the syntax is fairly similar as well. You have the keyword for, two parentheses for your conditions, and then brackets for whatever you want to do, as long as those conditions are satisfied. Now the syntax for a for loop within these parentheses as the conditions is the declaration of a variable which you'll iterate over. So let's say I, which is going to be assigned to 1. 1 is going to be assigned to I, that is. The condition that you would want to satisfy before it ends. So in this case we can say that I is less than 100, and when I is 100 we'll break out of the for loop. And an increment operator. So you might not understand this entirely right now. Let's just see what it does if I want to print out I. When I run this code, I'll find out that we get the numbers from 1 to 99. And this operates fairly similarly to while loop, in which we have some integer, say x, initialized to 1. And as long as x is less than 100, we will print x. Right, and if I run this code one more time, the first one will get the for loop, and the second time we will get the while loop once you increment. So both times we get numbers from 1 to 99. So why would you use a for loop? Well, the for loop, first of all, might be more readable. You have some variable initialized within the for loop instead of outside the loop if you have a while loop. So that might be easier, more organized. You can increment differently each time, which you can also do in a while loop, but with the for loop you can also do, say, assigning I to itself plus 3. And if we run this code, we'll get every third number, so 1, 4, 7, up to 97, up to 100. And if we run less than 101, we will find that we also get 100, starting from 1. And if we start I equals 0, we'll get multiples of 3. So the for loop is a very powerful tool relative to a while loop that lets us iterate over some number. Now by the time we get to robotics programming, this for loop might not be as necessary, but it is still a useful thing to know. Later on we'll find a challenge in which the for loop will be very, very useful to iterate over some value and try to output some condition of that value. Now we can make it other conditions, so it doesn't have to be less than, that can be less than or equal to. And if we print this out and we increment I every time by 1, we will find that we get the numbers from 1 to 100, because 100 is equal to 100. So this operates fairly similarly to a while loop. I first equals 0, and 0 is less than or equal to 100. So we print out I, and then we increment I by 1. So now I equals 1. 1 is less than or equal to 100, so we print out 1. And then so on until I equals 99. 99 is less than 100, so we print that out, we print 99. Then when we increment I to 100, 100 is less than or equal to 100, we print that out. And then when I equals 101, since incremented, it no longer satisfies this condition, and we no longer are in the for loop. So when I equals 101, we can print greater than 100. And we'll find that once I equals 100, once I equals 101, we print out greater than 100. So this is a very useful tool.